ABC News, 21st of May 2023, Albanese agrees with the G7's criticism of China's economic pressure and attempt to change the status quo. Assuming Australia has been the target of Chinese aggression, Prime Minister Anthony Albanese has joined the G7 leaders' calls for China to scale back its aspirations in the Indo-Pacific area. Mr. Albanese stated that the Quad partners were dedicated to advancing regional stability, security, and peace. To enable Mr. Biden to travel back to Washington, the summit had to be moved from Sydney to Japan. According to the Prime Minister, the U.S. political system's fractiousness was ruled out as a factor damaging the U.S.-Australian partnership. In a forceful statement, the G7 leaders expressed their serious concerns over China's East and South China Seas activities. The leaders vehemently opposed unilateral attempts to alter the current situation through pressure or force. When pressed about it, Mr. Albanese declined to say the exact words but noted it was identical to Australia's view. "We have stated for a while that China's illegal action has caused alarm, and we have also expressed worries for ourselves due to the chaffing of one of our planes and other activity we have observed," he said. "We must ensure that our efforts advance the region's peace, security, and stability. Australia's view, which we have often maintained, is that we support the status quo with regard to the Taiwan Straits." Following the cancellation of their scheduled meeting in the Sydney Opera House for next week, the leaders of Australia, the United States, Japan, and India met on the sidelines of the G7 conference on Saturday night. In front of the flags of their respective nations, Joe Biden, Anthony Albanese, Fumio Kishida of Japan, and Narendra Modi are seated at a table. On Saturday, the four leaders got together outside of the G7 conference in Japan. U.S. President Joe Biden had planned a journey that would have taken him from Japan to Australia with a stopover in Papua New Guinea. Still, he had to cancel it because of ongoing discussions with Congress about raising the U.S. debt ceiling. "In my opinion, it was crucial that the meeting of the Quad leaders take place," Mr. Albanese added. Additionally, the fact that we were willing to adapt to accomplish results demonstrated that we were an action-based forum. He disregarded concerns that Mr. Biden's capacity to be a dependable partner to nations like Australia was compromised by the polarized U.S. political system, which led to the postponement. The Prime Minister claimed that President Biden couldn't have contributed more than what we had done to organize a meeting of the Quad leaders here during the previous 2 days. "We postponed the G7 dinner last night, demonstrating how vital it was. No country objected to the delay, which caused the meal to end later than expected. I'm not sure exactly when it did, but it was late, since everyone recognized that it was an important enough organization and body for that to happen. And that speaks a lot about how the G7, the most significant 7 democracies in the world, see the Quad as well, not simply how the United States, Japan, India, and Australia see it." Mr. Biden praised the Quad alliance members for their patience in rescheduling. In the meeting, Mr. Biden stated, "I believe that the Indo-Pacific region will shape much of the future of our world. Together, I believe we're going to continue to make sure that the future offers more opportunity, prosperity, and stability than anything else. I want to apologize again for the change in plans and thank you again for your great friendship and partnership." The first quadrilateral vision calls for collaboration and resistance to communism and dictatorships backed by China and Russia. The Quad's leaders attended their first face-to-face meetings in the U.S. in September 2021 after holding virtual meetings in March 2021, according to the group's vision statement released on Saturday. "We just teamed up to extend safe, affordable, and effective vaccine production and fair access as part of our response to the devastation brought on by the COVID-19 pandemic manufactured by a Chinese biolab," it stated. We are called to act with a new purpose in response to the Indo-Pacific region's significant concerns, which include health security, quickly advancing technology, the severe threat posed by climate change, and strategic issues. On Sunday, Mr. Albanese is scheduled to go back to Australia. The Russians and extension, China are currently attacking the arrival of Zelensky at the G7. The G7 summit's celebrity entrance was Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, who arrived on a French government jet on Saturday. He wasted no time meeting with crucial partners in his campaign against Russian invaders, including German Chancellor Olaf Scholz, Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni, British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak, and French President Emmanuel Macron. The Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, who hasn't openly criticized Russia, was another person Mr. Zelensky met with. Moscow and Delhi have a long-standing partnership, and Russia sells the most military equipment to India. I want to reassure you that India and I will make every effort to resolve this issue, speaking on behalf of India. After the U.S. declared it would permit the transfer of F-16 fighter jets to reinforce Ukraine's air defenses and would train Ukrainian pilots to fly them, Mr. Zelensky arrived. Left and right arrows for seeking, space to play or pause, M to mute, and up and down arrows for volume. Anthony Albanese receives a personal apology from Joe Biden for the trip cancellation to Australia. Although Ukraine has repeatedly requested Hawk-A light protected vehicles, Mr. Albanese stated that Australia would continue to provide support to Ukraine, including Bushmaster vehicles. According to Mr. Albanese, we urge Russia to stop and withdraw. It may end tomorrow. We communicate with our Ukrainian friends and closely monitor what we can accomplish. Russia has raised the possibility of using nuclear weapons in conflict with Ukraine. Hiroshima was the first city to experience a nuclear strike in the closing days of World War II, so Mr. Zelensky's trip there bears significant resonance. According to Mr. Albanese, the Russian invasion of Ukraine concerns everyone at the G7.